Yeah, if you can believe it or not, the NBA draft is tomorrow.
What do you think? Once again, I asked you this earlier in the broadcast, but are you not Kevin Ray? Are you not the Kevin Ray that is the Suns broadcaster, the television broadcaster, of course, in season? Do you work for the Suns, Ray? Yes.
I do, yes.
Okay, great. So having said that right now, what do you want to see them do? What is the best case scenario as you see it?
Well, as I said earlier, the best case scenario for me is actually, pulling a trigger and drafting a player tomorrow.
See,
whether that's at 22 or, as a number of reports have suggested, potentially trading down
for more draft capital.
For potentially more draft capital. I just, part of me wants to kind of buy into that, but just knowing the history of the decision makers in that position, I don't see them doing that to acquire even more young, inexperienced talent. I could be proven wrong, but I think at the very least, I think that we will see this team keep their draft, a draft pick tomorrow. Yeah. Again, a draft, whether it's 22 or maybe you trade down a couple spots, but I believe that they will keep a draft pick tomorrow, get a player, and get a player that they believe can help them in some capacity or another this season. As we've just discussed, this is not a crazy talented draft, talent in the sense of oh my God, an organizational shifter.
Right.
But it's a deep draft.
But you know what, though? It doesn't mean there aren't great players.
No, and that's the point I'm trying to make is you've got some really solid players. We talked about the young point guard from Marquette.
Tyler Kolek.
Yeah, seasoned kid. So he's not your typical as we've seen.
Not only that, Kay, but they say Tyler Kolek is like having a coach on the floor.
Right.
This is a guy that understands the game of basketball. That, to me, I love that.
Well, so we had Kellen Olson, our Phoenix Suns, Arizona sports guru, on yesterday, and you guys asked him, would you like to see the Suns take Tyler Kolek?
I would be okay with it, Wolf. I think that some of his deficiencies are going to hurt his long-term upside, and what I mean by that is the scoring off the bounce, whether it's from the mid-range or from the three. His scoring around the rim, he's going to need to be crafty. He can be crafty, and I think he will still score at the rim. But as a playmaker and a guy who orchestrates offense, what he did at Marquette better than just about anyone in the country was his two-man game with Oso Ighodaro, and I just don't think the Suns have that big right now that complements his strength, which is running a two-man game where they would need to bring in the proper big to get the most out of him. And at the end of the day, we're talking about someone who's going to be a backup for you. And I wonder with the upside possibilities of this pick, if taking someone who projects as more of a backup and just a really good third guard for a team, maybe as not his absolute ceiling in this league, but I would be surprised if Tyler Kolek wound up being a starting point guard for a long time in the NBA. So I just do wonder if this is a pick where you should take someone who has a chance of being something more than that.
Yeah, once again, this is where scouting is so important. Scouting is so important because there are going to be some eyeballs that will watch a Tyler Kolek and say, oh my goodness, that's TJ McConnell. That's who that is.
Right.
There are going to be some scouts that are going to be convicted that this is who this dude is. Now, I'm not saying they happen to be Phoenix Suns scouts that are saying this about Tyler Kolek, but there are some scouts that I'll guarantee you like him a lot more than some other scouts may like him. And that's where scouting is awesome. This is where they earn their money, man. Whom do you hitch your wagon to? Who do you do it to? Well, you know what? Maybe there's going to be a lot of scouts that are going to stand on the table and say, you know what, Tyler Kolek is TJ McConnell, who went undrafted, by the way. How about Jalen Brunson, who went number 33, drafted in the second round? Jalen Brunson. Maybe you can find a guy that can come in and contribute. Not saying he's going to come in and contribute, as you said earlier, 34 minutes, 35 minutes a game. I'm not saying that. But maybe a guy that could fill that role. This is why I love Tyler Kolek, because I'm told that he's got a brain, and a big brain, and he understands the game. He's like having a coach on the floor. Okay, I understand. Athletically, he's not superior athletically. And that's why people are looking at him kind of like, well, you know, at 22 might be a little early right there on Tyler Kolek. But man, if you tell me the guy's got the brain first, I'll take a flyer on that all day.
Yeah. Yeah, and it goes back to what I said before about player development. You have to be able to forecast, like, in our system,
yes,
with our staff,
yes,
and our player development staff in particular, can in a year, in 2 years, and I know that a lot of folks will say, well, do we really have 2 years?
Right.
And that to
2
me,
years with Getty.
Yeah, that to me becomes the question, because in addition to that, with Killer yesterday, we talked about the positions of need as we look at the draft, because not only guard, but backup big man and wing. We continually talk about the need for more young athletic wings. And the other guy that Kellen talked about yesterday, and he's popped up on a few of the mock drafts, but the kid out of Colorado, the senior, Tristan Da Silva.
Yeah.
You know, he's kind of a Kyle Anderson of slow-mo, but more, he's quicker than slow-mo, a little more athletic, but he's a guy that can get out and defend on the wing, be physical, space on the offensive end of the floor, because as we also followed up yesterday, looking at what Boston did, like, it was, yes, they had Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, but when you looked at that entire roster, everybody that stepped on the floor could shoot the three and was a willing, hardworking defender. Not elite.
Yes.
But within the scheme defensively, as a team defender, you could become
elite.
a piece
Yes.
to a championship team.
Yes, exactly. And I love that. I mean, that showed so much vision to actually see that right now. And this is where the NBA is going, man. This is where it's going. We're going to look for that. We got Coach Bud already talking about the Suns shooting more threes, significantly more threes.
Averaged about 26, 27 last year. That's going to be
exactly
40.
And by the way, we're in the top 10, if I'm not mistaken, in making threes. So that bodes well for wanting to do that, right?
Indeed.
Thanks for watching Wolf and Luke. Tap to see more and click the button in the middle to subscribe to Arizona Sports.